A protester speaking against the injustice inflicted upon his community is met with two condescending stares from police officers. This was shot in a city near you, and it's happening all over America. Why? To understand the long and frustrated culture clash between law enforcement agencies and the Black community, we have to analyze the murder of Minnesota man George Floyd, who died at the hands of former Minneapolis police officer and now convicted felon Derek Chauvin. Black history is immensely rich and full of heart. Yet the singular event of George Floyd has resurfaced a pattern of police brutality and misconduct against Black Americans. The New York Times has recalled how a series of events led to a tragic and fatal event. May 25th was the day Minneapolis police officers arrested George Floyd, a 46-year-old man, after a convenience clerk called the police and told them that Mr. Floyd had attempted to buy cigarettes using a counterfeit $20 bill. Exactly 17 minutes after the first squad car had arrived on scene, Mr. Floyd found himself on the floor, pinned beneath three officers, showing no signs of life. County Attorney Mike Freeman announced third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter charges against Derek Chauvin 4 days after video evidence revealed Chauvin holding his knee against Mr. Floyd's neck for at least 8 minutes and 15 seconds, seemingly unbothered, according to a Times analysis. A week later, on June 3rd, Hennepin County prosecutors announced a more serious charge against Chauvin of second-degree murder and convicted the other three officers involved with aiding and abetting second-degree murder. The murder of George Floyd has sparked hundreds of protests throughout the nation, some even turning violent. The Black community is enraged at the murder of yet another Black man at the hands of police. Needless to say, the relationship between law enforcement and people of color runs deep within the culture of Black America, a culture that has been the target of oppression and injustice for more than 200 years. The march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in 1965 symbolized the activism and determination of Black Americans to fight against systemic racism, and history has shown that police tendency is to target Black Americans. Bloody Sunday is a prime example of this. Drew DeSilver, senior writer for the Research Pew Center, stated that the majority of both Black and white Americans believe Black people are treated less fairly than whites in dealing with police, and by the criminal justice system as a whole. In a 2019 Center survey, 84% of Black adults said that in dealing with police, Blacks are generally treated less fairly than whites. 63% of whites agree. Harvard University, wanting to explain this injustice, published a 2016 Civil Rights Law Review, highlighting two key reasons for violent interactions between law enforcement and Black individuals. First, repeated police interactions overexposes Blacks to the possibility of police violence. Second, African Americans' exposure to police occurs against the stereotype of Black people, labeling them as violent and dangerous. This increases the likelihood that police officers will interact with Black people from the perspective that violent force is both necessary and appropriate. When Hennepin County prosecutors filed charges against Derek Chauvin, a clause in the charge read the following: Mr. Floyd did not intentionally get in the car, and struggled with officers by intentionally falling down, saying he was not going in the car and refusing to stand still. Mr. Floyd is over 6 feet tall and weighs more than 200 pounds. Some say this description attempts to justify the use of excessive force by police, with a stereotype of violent Black men encouraging this rationalization. The unfortunate history of Blacks in America has proven that even the most irrational and racially motivated actions can be covered up and justified through police and government bureaucracy. Nevertheless, Black communities across America have rallied together against systemic racism, calling for accountability within police departments. The activist group Black Lives Matter shared their thoughts concerning police violence when they said, "We call for radical, sustainable solutions that affirms the prosperity of Black lives. George Floyd's violent death was a breaking point, an all too familiar reminder that, for Black people, law enforcement doesn't protect or save our lives. We call for an end to the systemic racism that allows this culture of corruption to go unchecked and our lives to be taken." Surely the culture of the Black community has been tainted by police brutality. As the nation mourns the loss of George Floyd, there's a stark reminder of our need to improve. The Black community thrives on the need to be better and to do better, to lift and encourage, to use their voice when others call for silence. This is Black culture, and justice will continue to be served so long as Black folks and all Americans unite to speak up when something isn't right. To quote perhaps one of the greatest American activists in history, I have a dream that this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Thank you.